Welcome to the Paper Crafter's Library. In this video I'm going to show you how to heat emboss on ceramic using WOW embossing powders. This technique is a simple way to take unadorned ceramics like the plain bowl that I started with and create adorable functional elements like this little cat food dish that you see in the picture or other decorative elements for your home. So now the supplies I'm using for this project include my ceramic bowl, which I purchased at the dollar store for only $1. I have a coffee filter over which I'm embossing, my heat tool. I have my Versamark pad. This is a clear, colorless, thick, sticky pad that's going to be perfect for holding my embossing powder. I have an anti-static bag to remove any static from the surface of my bowl. I'm going to be using a stencil that I've created myself using my Silhouette and this Silhouette stencil vinyl. Now, what you choose to help you create your image that you're going to be embossing on your ceramic bowl really is totally up to you. You can make your own stencils. If you have a machine like the Silhouette, then you can do that. You can punch out of a lightweight paper that you can then kind of stick to your bowl to use that as a stencil. There's a lot of commercial stencils available that you can buy. You can even use stamps to create your image rather than a stencil. Now, my personal preference whenever I'm working on curved or slippery surfaces or any difficult surface to work with is to actually use a stencil. You get a much cleaner impression and you don't risk your image slipping as you would with a stamp. Then if your stamp slips, you get a smeared image. So the stencil that I've created is of these little fish bones, and then the embossing powder that I'm using comes from WOW embossing powder, and it's the Earth Tone Paprika Regular. So I'm going to show you how I am going to get my embossed image on the side of my ceramic bowl. So here I have my stencil material, and I'm just going to take this and very carefully lay it and stick it onto the side of my bowl. If your stencil is not, the stencil that you're using is not adhesive at all, then you're going to have to find a way. You're going to have to either carefully hold it in place or put some kind of removable adhesive on there. And actually I think I'm going to reposition this maybe closer to the top of my bowl. Maybe easier to align that way. So there you can see, I'm just going to press that down. I'm then going to, I had already run my anti-static bag over my ceramic bowl, so I don't have to do that again. I'm then going to take my Versamark pad and I'm just going to press it all over the surface of my stencil. Now if you don't have a Versamark pad, you can also use a Versamarker, or we've covered a few other mediums that you can use in our basics of heat embossing video. So I'm just covering, really pressing all over. Then I'm going to remove my stencil because I don't want to get embossing powder all over that, since I'm planning on repeating this design around the edge of my bowl. And although the camera probably can't pick it up, you will be able to very faintly see where the Versamark powder, or where the Versamark medium is on your bowl. And I'm just going to sprinkle the embossing powder over that image. And then tap it. I'm now just going to take my, well, it looks like I got Versamark on the side of my bowl here, so I'm just going to grab a wipe and wipe that off. So you do have to be careful where you pat your Versamark pad. And then using a fine tip brush, I'm very carefully, I don't know how well you can see that, but I've, even with my anti-static bag, because this is a very slick surface, I've got embossing powder where I don't want it. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to clean that off, and then I'll be back and show you how I'm going to heat emboss this image. So now, because ceramic gets very hot when it's heated, just like if you were working with glass or metal, I've got a cloth wrapped around it to protect my fingers as I'm heating this with my heat tool. So I'm going to heat it in the same way you've seen me emboss other things, holding my heat tool a couple inches away, starting in one spot. I always start at one end of my image and I keep my heat tool concentrated on that one side until I see the embossing powder start to melt. Once I see the powder start to melt, then I start moving my heat tool along the image. So there you can see what that looks like. Now one thing that I do want to mention is that one of the things I noticed when embossing on this ceramic bowl is that my embossing powder took a lot longer than normal to melt, and I'm not really sure why that is. So don't be alarmed if when you're embossing on ceramic you notice that your embossing powder seems to be taking a long time in melting. Just keep your heat tool focused on it and just wait until you start to see that change come over the embossing powder. So I'm going to go ahead and finish off this bowl. So there you can see what my embossed dish now looks like. I've gone around the perimeter spacing my fishes out. Now a couple of notes that I do want to mention about when you're embossing on ceramic. This is not dishwasher safe, so if you were to put this in the dishwasher over time, you would probably start to lose some of the embossing. It would probably start to wear off. So this is definitely something that you're going to want to hand wash, and you're going to want to make sure that you hand wash the outside over your embossed images very carefully, because if you do work at it with your nail or scrape it, the embossing is going to scrape off over time. But as you can see, this is a really easy way to dress up and spice up some really plain ceramic, and you could create some really cute decorative elements if you don't want to have to worry about putting them in the dishwasher. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial and have some fun embossing on some ceramic of your own.